What's good, everyone? Hope everyone's week is going alright. This week's video is on the biggest shows in boxing, pretty much horrible main events or the entire card itself, where one would question if the fight was a sham or a money laundering scheme that'll put some Hollywood productions to shame. With that being said, let's start the video. Coming to 2006, Mayweather had a hot streak of exciting TV-friendly performances. We're talking about 6 fights in a row. In order, Philip Endo, DeMarcus Corley, Henry Brucelis, his come-out party against Arturo Gatti, his welterweight and #1 pound-for-pound ranking debut against Sean Mitchell, and lastly his high-drama fight against Zab Judah. Mayweather's next fight was against newly crowned WBC and lineal champion Carlos Baldomir. Baldomir came off a big TKO victory against Arturo Gatti in his first defense, and earlier that year dethroning undisputed welterweight champion Zab Judah. Due to being scorched on sanction fees on his already low $100K purse, he decided to not pay the IBF and WBA, which is why this fight here is only for the WBC ring and lineal. The build up to this fight would have had you expecting we were going to see an exciting show against a relentless pressure fighter who comes in the ring near 170 to 175 pounds on fight day against the pound for pound star who can outbox you and make you pay dearly for missing. Most don't know during Floyd's 6-fight run, 4 of those fights were by TKO, almost 5 out of the 6 because Floyd was actually making great pace and grounds to stopping Zab Judah. He was picking up his offense as Judah was really beginning to show wear prior to the famous low blow and riot in the ring. So not only Floyd came in as a 4-1 betting favorite, but the odds of Carlos even going the distance against Floyd was high. The undercard wasn't much to write home about. The Guerrero-Salido fight was okay, however it ended in a no contest as Salido tested positive for roids. Mayweather had a lot of adversities coming into this fight. It was his first fight as a free agent in the works of setting up the massive De La Hoya fight. His trainer Roger Mayweather was still suspended and currently in jail, so Leonard Ellerbe was the main man in Floyd's corner.
Baldomir comes straight forward. It ain't like he do something special. If Floyd stick to the game plan and box, be smart, it's gonna be an easy fight.
With that, Floyd only put on 2 pounds on fight day, weighing at 149 pounds. Let that be a sign that he was going to be extra conservative and try to outpoint Carlos, who was weighing 162 pounds. Which he came in awfully light this fight, so that means Carlos was going for speed here. Floyd really didn't help himself, coming into the ring as a gladiator, teasing the crowd for something exciting to come. I think if this match was promoted in a different angle,
I think this is one of the most intriguing fights in years. Conceivably rank right up there with some of the greatest upsets in the history of boxing.
He has to sweat down 40 pounds to get to welterweight. It makes him angry, it makes him surly, it makes him really pissed off, it enhances him as a fighter.
The reception would have been much better as this was met with boos from the large majority of the venue. Celebs that attended allegedly left before the final round. Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods, which I can't confirm. By the time the 12th round came, most of the audience had left. Those that stayed and was cheering were more than likely the ones that put money down that this fight was going to go to distance, as the odds were alarming. I don't blame them. I would have been cheering too towards the end.
Mayweather may be saying, hey, it's unfair of you to ask me to sit down and knock out a man who outweighs me 13 pounds tonight.
You look at what happened when Robinson fought LaMotta. Big weight disparity there.
Since this is the 2000s and HBO and other media outlets can control the narrative, because they really needed to push this in a good light to promote the De La Hoya matchup, Floyd got a good soundbite in, and that is what you saw on SportsCenter and every media outlet.
De La Hoya won it. You know, he know my number. He know how to call me. He know how to get in touch with me. Only thing I'm going to do is keep racking up victories and beating the best. If Oscar De La Hoya said that he wants the best, he want to leave off fighting the best, bring it on. I'll tax that ass too.
Mayweather in the post-fight presser would have a complete emotional meltdown, which images and video would have been wiped from the internet.
For all the negative press, when y'all wrote about me in the past, said I done things that I didn't do. They tore my name down, tore my family down.
Before we get back with the video, be sure to hit that like button to help the reach for everyone to see. If you enjoy the content, this is the best way to supporting the page. The comment section topic is, what was the most disappointing fight you ever seen? Either a fight that you were emotionally invested in that let you down, or simply a fight that flat out ruined your weekend because it was the only thing on that whole month. Leave in the comments. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and let's get back to the video. For the longest, my grandfather refused to buy any pay-per-views for a long time prior to 2007, when my brother had convinced him by showing him DVD recordings of Roy Jones Jr.'s comeback fights with Prince Badiajamu and Anthony Hanshaw. He was convinced after the Hanshaw fight to invest his money into purchasing the pay-per-view for Jones vs. Trinidad, which led to the greatest purchase of all time, Pacquiao vs. Cotto. He had told us that he stopped buying pay-per-view because of Mike Tyson. He had ruined it for him, as he used to hold fight parties all the time. He couldn't remember which fight made him stop, but if I had to pinpoint which fights it had to be from this period, I'm guessing from October 1999 to October 2000. This period here, we would see some of the worst pay-per-view programming from a cash cow. And people would say Mayweather was scamming him. This was horrible. Tyson versus Norris was a mess. Luckily, the undercard was good, but in this case, you're paying to see Tyson here. Tyson would hit Norris during instructions before the final 10 seconds, which resulted in a warning. Then right after the bell, he would hit Norris once again, which Norris would get knocked down.
A punch while they were talking. Oh, and he hits him after the bell, and Norris goes down, and here we go again. Tyson hit Norris after the bell. And let's see what Steele says.
Hit after the bell. That's 2 points.
Oh.
2 points.
Deducts 2 points. Oh, really? He could have lost the whole fight.
And this time resulted in a 2-point deduction. Norris claimed that he had injured his knee and he can't continue. This resulted in a no contest. A scuffle almost happened, but Tyson was quickly restrained. Police flooded the ring to keep order.
Tyson fight, let's not see it again. They're forming a circle around Tyson. And you can hear the crowd chanting, "It's displeasure now."
The second fight was against Julius Francis. The performance was good, but it was heavily one-sided on paper and in reality. Certainly not a pay-per-view worthy fight, but Showtime really has to milk it here, since Tyson crashed his stock so bad they needed to get every penny on their 100+ mil investment, which is devaluing quicker than a 2000s era Maserati. Like really, that thing's a piece of shit. Like really, this is the worst investment ever. The third fight was against Luis Seversi. He actually had a solid resume at the time. Tyson dropped him within seconds of the first round. The ref stepped in a bit on the early side as Tyson was going for the finish, which resulted in Tyson to continue to pound away while the ref was trying to break the action. Tyson risking a disqualification or a no contest once again in the process as he continues to pound away.
Waving his hands as if to say the fight, yes, it's over! It's over!
He stopped it, Steve. You know what? He stopped it, but he didn't do it definitively when Lou was getting hit.
The fourth fight was the icing on the cake. People paid $50 for this fight. On paper, this is the highest quality opponent Tyson had faced in a long while, and he put on a good show. However, it takes two to tango. Galata surrendered after 2 rounds, going as far as pushing the ref, his coach, and storming out the ring as the fans began to crash out and throw everything they can get their hands on at Galata.
At the end of 2 rounds. Oh, look at that. Oh, my goodness. Let's hope this doesn't really get out of hand now. It's getting very ugly here now as they hustle him out into the back area.
Listen, I'll tell you what.
This is the fight that cemented Germany's absolutely atrocious officiating stereotype, resulting in one of the worst robberies in boxing and possibly the worst in the weight class's history.
The referee isn't going to do Robin Reed any favours whatsoever. Anything that looks like it might go a little bit low or a little bit straight, that referee will be on him like a rash.
There's a saying, if the ref doesn't rob you, the judges will. With Reed's luck, he was fighting 5 guys: the ref, the judge, and Ak. Ak was the WBA and IBF champion on an historic streak, as this fight was his 20th defense of the title, and from the opening bell, it was blatantly obvious that everyone was there to protect it, as we would see some of the worst officiating by a referee.
Not get in with that jab and out again, moves out of, that's the second time. That's indeed right.
Reed was constantly given warnings for infractions that never took place, given warnings for holding when Ak was the one that was clearly initiating the hold. Reed would knock Ak down in the 6th round. It was a clear knockdown right in the ref's field of view. However, the ref will count it as a slip.
That wasn't bad at all by Robin Reed.
It's not called out knockdown, I can't believe it. That is a disgrace.
He knows he's got caught. What does Robin Reed have to do? They've got to...
Then followed up just seconds later with a barrage of warnings about headbutts that never happened, to later penalize Reed 1 point for a supposed headbutt.
As a professional boxer, I've never seen a referee like this, and now the referee will take a point because Ox made a big point about it. Look at this. That's disgraceful.
Well, Robin Reed really is going to have to knock this fellow out to get a win.
Whenever Reed landed, he would receive a warning by the ref, to where mentally he felt like he was on the verge of disqualification.
Otka realises that he's behind and he's trying to force the fight. Referee, come off it. That's disgraceful. What the referee's actually done there was a disgrace. There was nothing wrong with that right hand whatsoever, and he's warned Reed for it for slapping.
This is literally that career mode part in Fight Night Champion where you were prohibited from throwing body shots, or you will get disqualified because of a corrupt ref. Well, certainly they use this fight as a reference.
Thin air if need be, just to show the judges that he's being busy.
Stop. Briggs, stop it.
I don't know what Robin Reed has to do to please this referee.
Pushing,
Every time there's any contact at all. Now this is really disheartening, Robin Reed. And it's going to be a measure of just as good as concentration is. At that time it was Otka who went in with a head. Right by Reed, just blocked, good stiff shot, and there's Otka going in with a head. Now what's he going to do about this? Nothing at all.
Both of you, both.
This fight would make it to the scorecards, and Reed would get robbed by the judges, with all 3 in Ok's favor. The point deduction being the difference maker, as 2 of the judges scored at 115-113. In 2009, Danny Green would reach his career peak, defeating Roy Jones Jr. in his first defense of the IBO Cruiserweight title. Starting in 2010, he would have another quick defense, stopping Manny Siaka in the 3rd round. His next fight, 3 months later, he would bring Paul Briggs out of retirement for one last fight, pretty much help his financial situation, as Briggs has been retired for 3 years now due to health issues. Despite winning the IBF Australian title in his final fight, Briggs would earn a title fight's purse of $250,000 against Green. Also keep in mind, this was a pay-per-view that had quite a bit of hype behind it. Both fighters had the reputation of being warriors in the ring. What can go wrong here? The first 10 seconds of the fight, Briggs would go down by a jab that looked like that barely grazed him. You can hear from the crowd say no when he went down, then the subtle rumble of boos coming in as he remained on the canvas.
And Briggs is down for a body shot.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The look on Green's face just says it all. He would go over to Briggs and give him an earful before being guided back to the opposite end of the ring. You know it's bad that the venue DJ tried playing Men at Work, I Come From a Land Down Under to calm down the crowd. The boos were so loud that they cut the track just seconds in with the crowd screaming bullshit and began chucking whatever at Briggs.
If we had answers,
I think it was a left
given to you.
I think it was one left jab to the head.
Couldn't even put together his thoughts on the matter. However, he was able to calm the crowd down and prevent a riot from taking place.
Just chill out and give me time to speak, because there's not one person in this room that is more jacked than me. And I can't say sorry for that person. He ain't even a canine. He's not even a canine. No one's as pissed off as me, believe me. Not one person is as pissed as me. Briggs ain't getting paid a cent. He dogged it. And that's criminal what he just did.
The IBO, who was embarrassed for sanctioning the fight, filed for an immediate investigation. Briggs would get his license revoked since he fraudulently withheld information. He had medical conditions to be granted a license in the first place, as well as being fined $75,000.
The people in the green camp weren't aware. The medical doctors weren't aware, and we on the commission weren't aware.
This was also followed by a supposed police investigation due to the obvious dive Briggs made for police to investigate if there was an amount of betting activity specifically based on this result that would raise flags.
An inquiry's been called into whether the fight between Danny Green and Paul Briggs in Perth last night was fixed.
Oh man, back-to-back green fights, because why not? Despite both guys being well past their prime. Unfortunately, they are still the biggest names in Australian boxing. From outsiders, this is an obvious pay-per-view cash grab. However, in Australia, this was hyped up to be the biggest fight in a long while. So big, they booked it in a football stadium. This fight was so big that American outlets had to cover it, as both fighters were given an estimated $20 to $30 million purse. Horrible start for Danny Green, as the ref was breaking both fighters apart, and Mundine hit him on the break, which buckled Green. This could have very well ended the fight right there. However, Green was given a break, Mundine was penalized, and the fight continued. The fight didn't resemble at all the first fight, which was a classic. It truly fell flat given the $59.95 pay-per-view price tag. Those who knew this was a cash grab, and international viewers that were intrigued if it would be a good fight, hit up the grey market streams, which one legend, Australian native by the name of Darren Sharp, put the team and the boxing world on his back and live streamed this monstrosity of a pay-per-view. Over 150,000 tuned in to his Facebook live stream. He was also on live on the phone with the pay-per-view provider, who was begging him to end the stream, with Sharp to respond with, "There's people all around the world watching." The provider eventually cut Sharp's cable, with viewers thanking Sharp and one quoted line of a user saying, "I owe you a beer." The aftermath, Sharp was going to be in quite a bit of trouble. A GoFundMe was set up. Sharp responded saying, "Thanks to everyone for the support. It's been a fun ride. Please donate in case I end up getting sued. If not, and Foxtel doesn't wreck me, I'll donate to Cancer Console. Cheers everyone, you're the best." Due to the backlash and the fact that the fight wasn't all that good to begin with, Foxtel dropped all charges on the grounds if Sharp apologizes and acknowledges that streaming hurts boxing. With Naoya Inoue bringing money and popularity to the weight class, this brought in names that we never thought could competitively make the bantamweight division again, starting with Nonito Donaire, who is looking like the Donaire from his flyweight to bantamweight days, and later Guillermo Rigondeaux, who, if I may recall, was rumored to have been invited to take place in the bantamweight tournament, however didn't think he had enough time to become a bantamweight. After watching what he missed out on, Rigondeaux indeed later was able to make bantamweight in early 2020 before the lockdown, where he would get a decision win against Labaro Solis, a very difficult fighter to face. As the lockdown restrictions was wrapping up in the sport worldwide, the plans of setting up fights to unify the division was in the works. Donaire would win the WBC title in May, and 3 months later you would see John Ray Casimero go on and fight Guillermo Rigondeaux. The winner would go on to face Nonito Donaire in the final leg to set up an undisputed unification, which on paper sounds absolutely amazing. Stylistically, this should have been an entertaining fight, pretty much a lower weight class version of Lara vs Angulo, except to John's credit, he's a bit more faster, and at that point, more fundamentally sound at cutting off the ring as seen against Anand. So really, what can go wrong here? We would see possibly the worst championship fight in modern boxing history, easily the worst of this decade, and this decade ain't over yet. Casimero had Canelo's submit feed times 20 and could not cut the ring off at all to find a mark on Guillermo. The old man making Casimero look like an amateur round after round. However, Guillermo's unrelentlessness to fire back even the playing field. He proved very early he can land whenever at will, but chose not to. This was a very strange fight. This was a winnable fight if he just threw 5% more at the highest. It's not like Casimero had power that Guillermo hadn't seen before, or being the smaller fighter. He's faced Donaire, Lomachenko, and Amagasa, who was literally almost 6 feet, which he put on his greatest offensive and defensive show despite being knocked down twice. Really, he could give this fight a draw. Showtime had Guillermo up by a round coming to the 12th round, but Guillermo literally did nothing that round, which they scored it a draw. Since this is a type of fight where no matter what, there won't be a draw scored, as it will muck up the plans for the weight class, they will give it to politically the guy who will generate numbers, which was Casimero. This fight was a mess, and this is not meant to trash Turkey in any way. I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for the fans, and the production side of me absolutely feels sorry for the production team that slaved throughout the day and spent overnighters meeting deadlines to produce the marketing assets for one of boxing's most ambitious 2-day events. When Turkey came on the scene, he brought in a level of production to marketing boxing that we have never seen in a very long time. The budget for these commercials actually reflected on the final product. It didn't look like you had folks pocketing the entire budget, then have the facade that the money put towards where it was supposed to have been spent with using the most expensive equipment. Like, bro, the biggest money fight, Mayweather versus Pacquiao, we get this trash ass, generic ass commercial that looked outdated as hell to mid 2015 standards, which it's hard to believe this was shot at the time with the brand new red cinema cameras. I know folks would be like, oh, Honcho, don't be too hard on them. Hold on, my guys, listen out here. The UFC that spring aired the trailer to McGregor versus Aldo, not to mention that following year in 2016, the trailer to UFC 200. This is what we're expecting out of Mayweather versus Pacquiao here, and we didn't get that. We also didn't get a HBO 24/7 either, which is even more disappointing as the commercial itself. Anyways, Turkey brought back that much needed innovation to the marketing of the sport that hasn't been seen since the 80s, which blew up the boxing world. After several successful campaigns, this was the most ambitious. 2 back-to-back prize fights on 2 sides of the world. The marketing campaign for this was insane. The most attention was put towards the Friday card. You had 3 fights that could have served as their own main event: Teofimo Lopez versus Arnold Barboza, Devin Haney versus Jose Ramirez, and the highly anticipated return of Ryan Garcia, who is up against amateur rival Rolly Romero. This card was set to take place in Times Square, which was unprecedented. The commercial for this fight was insane, followed up by the promotion leading to fight day and excitement for the return of HBO boxing commentator Jim Lampley. The production and presentation was amazing. The fight itself was absolutely horrible. The Lopez fight being good. I would exclude his fight out of this, as the main focus was the co-main and main event. The Haney versus Ramirez fight resembled something from a Charlie Chaplin film. There were moments where there would be an entire minute of no action whatsoever. This was really bad.
According to CompuBox, this fight is threatening, is at least within range of potentially setting a record for the least punches thrown by both fighters in a 12-round fight in any division.
Now we have the Romeo versus Ryan fight. After the knockdown, we really saw a lot of nothing. Rolly with a commanding lead, with Ryan showing no urgency to take a risk and turn the fight around. No effort at all in the 12th. This resulted in a UD upset win for Romeo, who took what was given to him and was the only guy pressing the fight. This card was a massive disappointment and embarrassment to the sport, as a criticism that boxers are overpaid, and I would not be surprised if their purses were deducted for this show, as Ryan, Haney, and Teofimo made $10 million. Rolly made $5 million, Ramirez $2 million, and Barboza made $3 million. Turkey put up the money, production, and marketing grinded. Everyone did their job except for the fighters. These guys treated this fight as a tune-up, stepping stone fight, a go home and look good another day type of fight, and it clearly showed. Circling back to McGregor versus Aldo, which was a cultural event that had the MMA world talking. People remembered the fight. Most certainly they remembered the commercial, where folks still talk about it to this day. This card should have been that, one of the most memorable Cinco de Mayo cards. However, it will be forgotten. For Saturday's fight, it would be just as bad, if not worse, than Friday's. Skull would fight on the defensive the entire night, making it a very ugly fight to watch. It's silly to make comparisons to the Canelo-Lara fight. Lara was actually firing back and landing connections and using actual lateral movement, to where it still had me at the edge of my seat when watching live on TV.
See how when the fight progresses, Lara's trainer, Ronnie Shields. There's a straight swing. Chewing up. And has landed more. Oh, there's a good combination. And straight left by Lara.
This here was not it. Canelo would win by unanimous decision. The only salvageable event that took place that night was the face-off between Canelo and Crawford. However, at this point, boxing fans' Cinco de Mayo weekend was ruined. To end this on a good note, the boxing fans would now rely on Naoya Inoue's fight on Saturday. Japan fights usually happen on odd days of the week, Mondays, Sundays, Fridays, even Tuesdays. Since Inoue is a cash cow, he can still have his fights on these odd days instead of the traditional prize fight Saturday. Japan versus Mexico being a very underrated rivalry with all sorts of surprises. Most who had slept on this matchup woke up when Inoue got floored to the canvas, for the fight to turn into a classic, completely saving Cinco de Mayo weekend for the fight fans. And on top of that, this is the biggest shit shows in boxing. For more videos like these, be sure to like, share, and if you subscribe to Patreon for Patreon-backed projects and early access. I'm Office Hancho, and I'm out.